Anxiety. There are two forms of anxiety, cognitive and somatic. Cognitive anxiety is the thoughts associated with worry or feeling judged, and somatic anxiety is the physical components of anxiety, so sweaty palms or increased heart rate as an example. These thoughts and effects usually come just before a game or event. Anxiety is a negative experience of stress caused by worry or apprehension. There is also a secondary dimension to anxiety in the forms of trait and state anxiety. Trait anxiety is how much anxiety there is naturally inside a person and how much they perceive things as a threat. These levels are different in everyone, and state anxiety is different as it displays the anxiety in situations, and each change in environment presents different levels of anxiety. A mix of cognitive and somatic anxiety creates a catastrophe, which is displayed in the arousal catastrophe theory. Somatic anxiety is the physical components to anxiety, being sweaty palms, anxiety, increased heart rate, increased breathing rate, increased metabolism, and so on. An example of this can be before the opening serve in a tennis game. A player's heart rate may experience a rise, as well as their hands may start to sweat. Cognitive anxiety is the thoughts associated with worry. This can be things like feeling judged or being anxious. For example, the players in the tunnel before the World Cup final might be feeling anxiety and might feel judged by the opposition, or even be anxious to play as it's such a big game. Trait anxiety is how much anxiety you have naturally, or how much you perceive things as a threat. Trait anxiety ties into the trait personality theory, as it believes that your levels of anxiety are already within you and cannot be changed. So if you feel anxiety over something, this will always be the same. An example of this in sport can be in basketball. When a player takes a free throw in a game, at their first free throw in a game, they may feel worried. This theory states that every time that player takes a free throw, they will experience the same level of anxiety no matter what. State anxiety is explained as anxiety being a situational thing, so the levels of anxiety people feel changes in different situations. For example, professional basketball players in training, when they're not feeling any anxiety at all, will be able to play and perform skills and shoot from places they wouldn't normally in a game. However, when in a game, because their anxiety levels have risen, they do not perform the same skills, and shows that their anxiety changes in a different situation. Management techniques for anxiety. Different anxiety management techniques include deep breathing. This allows for the athlete to calm down for a moment and for the heart rate to lower and for enough oxygen to be supplied to the muscles. Positive self-talk. This involves the athlete acknowledging their own ability or progress by talking to themselves. The athlete needs to be able to take into account their ability, and if they're at a standard where they should be criticising themselves. So if they're a beginner, they shouldn't be criticising themselves for misplacing a pass or not performing a difficult skill. This raises an athlete's confidence. Mental imagery. This is where an athlete rehearses what and how they're going to perform over in their head. This can be a whole game or an event or a particular skill. So, for example, a free kick could be a particular skill. This helps players focus on what they have to do in their sport and helps cut out distractions that might hinder their performance and reduces their anxiety levels. And finally is selective attention. This is where an athlete only chooses to focus on certain things. For example, they will stop focusing on what their teammates or others around them are doing and try and get themselves into the zone, and this helps calm down an athlete. Criticisms for the management techniques is they cannot be performed during live play or performance. For example, if a rugby player is passed the ball, they do not have time to stop and mentally rehearse what they're going to do, as they would get clattered by the opposition. They have to perform instantly. Also, things like biofeedback, which read the body and put a person's heart and breathing rate back into balance, can happen. However, this is extremely expensive.